Normal and High Times have been very big enemies because, like I told you, Skunk Magazine was threatened that if they ever, when I did my article on 12 and 1, photoperiodic control your cannabis, and I cut everybody's bills down 40%. I cut everybody's bills down 60. Production cost 60%. You know how many businesses I've saved because I taught them true photoperiodism? Oh, it's just it's wild. This game is wild, man. To try to fight Dutch marketing fraud. I fought wiki wars on the internet for like 3 months of me proving my point and then coming back with the point on another level, back and every time I won, but they kept coming back and how long could this guy stay on the internet? And I could only stay on the internet for a certain amount of time, man. I can't spend the rest of my life fighting a wiki war on the internet, But so the Skunk Magazine, they were threatened that if they ever printed one of my articles again, that they would cut off all Dutch advertisement. That was 60% of their business. So they never printed another article of mine again. And then another time, I wrote an article, Cannabis Cup, High Times, Operation Green Merchant. And when to Treating Yourself, a magazine up in Canada, Marco, whatever is that, Marco, I forget what his name is. I can't stand the guy. Goddamn
crap. The Prince of Pot guy.
No, that's Mark Emery.
Mark Emery, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah,
Mark Emery's a super capitalist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But this guy up there, Marco, is trying to make a name of. He did the Toronto Expo, and he won 300 for only one. He had 1 or 2. They're not having them anymore because he got in trouble. He went up. I wrote that article. He took that article to Ben Dronkers, right, and told Ben Dronkers, if you don't get me out of the hole in Toronto, I'll publish Pietri's article. Full, Treating Yourself, and they rented every one of his booths, and he got out of the hole.
Well, you've experienced everything that I've seen since I've come into this. Yeah.
Then that's why I printed my book, the Ice Wars edition, and why I printed the book, the 15-ounce pound. The 15-ounce pound, Big Pharma's Plan to Patent Pot, outlines all that stuff. And the Thai government used that as a reference to pass their medical laws. Now everybody can grow their own in Thailand. That's what the British GW was afraid was going to happen in Europe, which it was really, everybody thought 15, 20 years ago, man, around 2000, everybody thought it was going to go at least medical in England. Yeah. And that got killed by that skunk thing. But what they wanted to do in England, they have done in Thailand, and they used my book as a reference. I mean, cannabis as a medicine has been in the Mahabharata 6,000 years. The word cannabis. There's a word in Latin in it. How can anybody make a patent for something that comes from Mother Nature that's been in pharmacopoeia 6,000 years? They've been using cannabis for PTSD 6,000 years. Alexander the Great used it.
Well, unfortunately, they've done it with everything, haven't they? Every seed, every grain, every vegetable, every fruit, it's all been genetically modified and patented.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But we're at, I think about it. I said, because I've done some crazy things. I had the state police and police wanted to make oil illegal in Oregon, so they were bringing a bill in front of the Senate. So I did a PowerPoint presentation and showed the senators. I did a PowerPoint presentation, showed the 25 senators the kind of business the cannabis business was when cannabis was legal, and they had patents on it. The tincture, and if you just sometime go to Park Davis, Parkedavis, Davis Company, Detroit. And you'll see the factory that was the factory where they made cannabis tinctures for all different things. Was the most popular medicine of all time. It's huge on the Detroit River. When I showed them the industry that Lilly made its fortune by cannabis, in the cannabis industry, Parker Davis, they became Pfizer. You know what I mean? So that's why they made it illegal for 80 years until their science caught up with it. Now they DNA sequence everything. They know everything, what's in everything. You'll see all these products come out now. Oh, this is a weight reducing this. Oh, this is this and this and this. And a lot of it is because they've DNA sequenced cannabis. Cannabis is, we wouldn't have an indoor cannabinoid system if it didn't work. It wouldn't work if we didn't have cannabis. Wouldn't work. If we have an indoor cannabinoid system, your dog has an indoor cannabinoid system, your cows have an indoor cannabinoid system, your camels, whatever animals out there has that in their system. It's good for man or beast. Like they used to have like old cannabis bottles from the crack bottles from the 19th century, which were basically tinctures, you know, with different varying degrees of alcohol. And on the bottles, it would be embossed for man or beast. You go to Nepal, you know, every farmer had ganja growing there because, you know, they gave it to their animals to keep them eating good. They keep their appetites up. So they made sweeter milk. You know, I mean, this is something that's been part of our pharmacopoeia for thousands of years, man. They have no fucking right to fucking make it illegal. They have no right. We have no rights. Everybody, they think that they're living in freedom. What I said the other day, the hippies didn't become yuppies. They became would-be capitalists that turned into socioeconomic slaves at varying degrees. You know, so cannabis is a really important medicine. So I've been looking for the effects of cannabis, and to show what they do is I had a strain, and it lowered your blood pressure a lot, right? And yep. I had the seeds that were Jamaican seeds, and because of the prohibition, you're not allowed to keep that many plants and plant count and this and that. I lost that strain. That was an important strain, but that's going to be out there. It's going to be out there. But that's what they're doing. They're getting those strains, those original strains, and they're DNA sequencing and figuring out exactly what the effects of all those different cannabinoids are. And they're making medicines and calling all this other shit. They're selling them on TV, and you don't even know it. You know?
Hey, Joe, you mentioned that they made Skunk 1 in the state of Mississippi, right, at the university?
Yeah, that's where the Skunk number 1 came.
I mean, can you tell us like what all you know about that?
Well, every time anything was confiscated by the government as far as weed goes, the seeds were sent to the University of Mississippi. They went directly to Carlton Turner. They had like the biggest collection of original seeds than anybody. And not only that, they replicate those seeds at their farm in the University of Mississippi so that they can keep them fresh. I don't know if it's still happening now or not, but it was back then. So everything that was busted, samples of that would go to the University, to Carlton Turner, who later went on to be the drug czar. The Skunkman threw an event at every High Times Cup at a known, I forget the name, I can find the information out somewhere in my books, where he invited people who thought they were important growers or whatever to this event. Everybody got a smoke out of this pipe that they use. Everybody smoked because at that point Reagan let everybody smoke. So, but that was another aspect of the intelligence gathering event. If you made friends or you got connected to people because you went to that party, you were fucked. But I want to talk about my buddy Kogo. So they ripped off his formula, put it into third. Now you need Bud Booster. Now you need CalMag. Now you know all this bullshit. And basically, they set his ass up as as a Lee Harvey Oswald. He started working with Neville, and he basically took the fall for Neville. They talk about Kogo's a rat, Kogo's a rat, Kogo's. He didn't tell them anything that they didn't already know. They already had everything they know. He went to fucking jail. He's the only one at that Operation Green Merchant that went to jail. And let me tell you, Kogo's a little bit of an ass because he got so badly treated by the Dutch and so shit upon what they're saying about him on the internet. He's this, he's that, he's this, he's that. And basically everything, all the nutrients, the nutrient formulas coming out of Amsterdam are based on his original shit. He was the fall guy for Neville, and he was left holding the bag. They had an indictment for Neville, and they never brought him back from Amsterdam because he had a Dutch passport, and eventually they dropped the shit. They always, you know what I mean? He never did a fucking day, but everybody else did it. He was like a Soma. He set everything up, everybody got popped, and he walked. He walked before everybody got popped. Or actually, he walked as everyone was getting popped. You know what I mean? Every grow he set up got popped. It's the same thing what they did to Kogo. Kogo became a real hard person to deal with because he's so stuck on what the Dutch did him and the whole Dutch scene and Neville, and they keep bringing it up, and they want to suppress Kogo because he had the best nutrients in the world. As far as he had that NASA formula and he made it, it was a 1-part formula. I got much better than that, which we'll talk about when we talk about growing. And so, so Kogo got shit on and they attack him and oh, this thing, she's this thing, she's this thing, she's this thing, she's this, she's that. That's how the feds cover their fact that they're the fucking feds. And Kogo's taking a lot of abuse, but you know what? He's doing a successful business. A lot of big companies are using his nutrients, and so he has managed to overcome Dutch marketing fraud. And hey, Lord, let Shiva bless him, dude. He paid a lot of dues for his being in Amsterdam. He went to fucking prison, dude. Federal prison. That was no joke, dude. They talk, oh, he's a snitch, he's a snitch, he's a snitch. He's a snitch, he wouldn't have gone to prison.
Well, he's actually one of the few people that, the only person in our conversation we've had so far that I've not actually recognized the name. So I can see that they obviously used against this guy the tactics of shit talking or total suppression, because it's unusual that someone tells me about someone I've literally never heard of before, who was obviously a key figure.
He was a key figure. And he's very bitter about it.
Yeah, I bet.
Very bitter about it. And so, my book, not to just pat myself on that, my book, but my book is real, dude. It's exciting. And so it should have been made, if Howard Marks's movie was made into a movie, my life should have been made into, in fact, I'm considered like that on that level of Howard Marks. But the Dutch have suppressed me. They've paid magazines off not to print my stuff. Why? Why won't they let me print? Why won't they let me talk, dude?
Because you tell the truth, no doubt.
Not only that, Dutch marketing fraud will pay let's say I get a job on a speaking engagement at Nikon or Canicon, and I start talking about growing, and then I start talking about Dutch fraud. The Dutch will go to that company and say, we don't want Pietri here. And they represent so much business that I get suppressed all the time and don't even know it. You would think that the guy that changed the way, I changed the way the world grows with my 12 and 1 and my 8 hours on, 16 off and flour, that they don't want me saying anything. Once I try to submit things to get a speaking engagement, and the Dutch have already paid the. Oh, we don't want him there. The Dutch are motherfuckers, man.
Well, with the continuing legalization or decriminalization or whatever in the States, you'll probably get more opportunities now, Joe, because the Dutch scene's pretty dead.
The
now.
thing
It's
about
dying,
it is
isn't it?
that people like yourself, like this guy who I don't know, the
Joe Pietri.
Joe. No, I'm talking to the guy who all killer.
Killer No Filler.
Oh yeah, me.
Our co-host.
Yeah, our co-host, your co-host. You know, he sounds like a young guy, and that's the reason I've agreed to do as many shows as he wants, because I feel that this is going to be a way for me to be able to reach an audience that I haven't been able to reach due to Dutch marketing fraud and the control of the cannabis media and information. People don't know anything about cannabis anymore, man. When I was a kid and I started to smoke, I wanted to know everything about cannabis, where it was grown, how it was grown, you know?
Yeah. It's like that passion has been lost, especially where sort of like cookies, strains, and like you say, do-si-do gelato, all this crap is being marketed by rappers. And it's like, when I started, I also wanted to experience all the truly. That's what gets me now. They call cookies exotics. Exotics is stuff like the Thai, like Malawi.
It's funny. It's funny that I totally agree with you, brother. For them to call cookies exotic is almost laughable. Like a sin. It's like
it's just a joke.
Yeah.
So you know, when I started. The first thing I grew was Northern Lights, and another.
You know, that came from a guy called Indian Joe.
Yeah, Indian. Is that Indian guy?
The Indian guy. He lives on an island somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. And that stuff comes from Washington State, I think.
Yeah, I've heard of that origin story coming from him too. I mean, that's a fact. It's totally true. Yeah. And then after that, I grew Malawi Gold.
Yeah, what?
I said, then after that, I grew Malawi Gold because I thought to myself, you know, there's only stuff like, you know, Dutch stuff available in the UK. When you buy just on the street or bought from your friend or whatever, it's always something Dutch. I'm like, when am I ever going to get the opportunity really to smoke Malawi Gold unless I grow it for myself? So I was like you. I wanted to experience all the truly exotic varieties from all over the world.
I wanted the stuff back that I wanted those flavors, those tastes, those aromas back.
Yeah, I don't think people realize that, you know, when they talk about potent, strong strains, if they just grew a simple Afghan strain, they'd find that so sedative and, you know, relaxing that it totally outcompetes anything available today for a potent strain or a couch lock strain, you know?
Yeah, I hate that stuff.
Well, it's different, I find. There's couch lock from the old school that gives you that sort of nice, deep feeling of contentment and relaxation. And then there's this sort of like you mentioned, the stupid weed. It's almost more stupid weed today without that nice kind of pleasant aspect to it as well.
There's no clear high. There's no clear high.
No,
it's not clean. It's not clear. You know
no.
what I mean? I'm glad you called it stupid, because that's what I call it. Stupid weed, dumb weed. You know what I mean? It makes people stupid. It's pathetic. It's really pathetic.
And it's just like a tragedy what's being done, I think, to the younger people of today, because all they're presented with is this stuff that looks like cookies, smells like cookies, and it's just literally so boring.
Yeah.
And mediocre. And it seems to me almost by design that in the same, from a continuation of Sam's days, where they've just tried to constantly degrade the quality, the true quality of cannabis, both on a medical and a recreational aspect. But just
they're doing it because they're figuring out the genome. They're figuring out all the DNA. They've DNA'd it. They know everything about it now. I mean, can you imagine somebody trying to make a patent for anything above 2% THC?
Nothing surprises me these days, unfortunately.
I saw the Dutch when during the ice water war period. I saw the Dutch, the European Union, hold back a patent that was already a patent in America. the patent was nearly run out in America before they were able to enforce their patent in Europe and in Canada and stuff. The European Union held that patent back. And that's the government's holding back. That's something that's too important for people to know, and they want under their control. Why would they hold back a patent? If it's good in the U.S., it should be, you know what I mean? Rubber stamp nearly, don't you think? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm listening to you. I'm just letting you talk,
Yeah,
man. But yeah,
I just want to let you. I got some stuff I want to ask, but I want to let you guys kind of shoot the shit for as long as you want to before I interrupt.
Yeah, I really love that you call it stupid weed. I know when you say that, then I know that you and I are on the same wavelength. There's certain things that you said, oh, this is a guy I can talk to because look at how he talks. Because I hear you talk, you're basically saying a lot of the same things that I'm saying.
I like listening to you too, Joe, because you've experienced a lot of the things I'm currently experiencing now as well.
Oh, dude.
Just in an earlier era.
Have they threatened you yet?
No, I just get constant shit talking. I'm sure some. Do you know, like
they have people in Holland that are paid to do that.
I was going to say, bro, it feels like there are some people literally paid because they're like in people's DMs all day long. It's like, you don't have a job. Clearly, you can't have a job. This is what you do. Someone's paid you to do it.
Yeah,
and that's why I feel like
they're drunkers. That's the ganja devil is Ben Dronkers, because he's paying people just to sit on computers to fight you.
It's crazy. But even sort of like well-known, everybody that I used to have respect for, unfortunately, before I entered the scene as a breeder, as it were, as somebody selling seeds,
tell the truth.
Everybody I previously respected and who I've since had personal contact with has at least been a letdown, a disappointment, or a flat-out fraud and an enemy of cannabis, pretending to be a cannabis hero.
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy.
It's really crazy. It's really crazy. So anyway, I was fighting this case with the state police, and I had proven when the Senate seen how the kind of business was being done in the natural business, they said, oh no. My PowerPoint presentation beat the state bill. See, they were passing people. They were buying this bumblebee extractor that first came out with to make.
I remember it. The honeybee extractor.
Yeah, they've blown up and killed people all over the world.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So they want to make it illegal, and I said, well, you can't make cannabis illegal. It was oil illegal is the most important medicine of all time, and I showed them the industry back then, what they paid for a pound at the pharmacy, what the pharmacy sold it for, what they bought it from Lilly. All this stuff blew their minds. And at the end, they knew they were losing. At the end, I looked over to Senator Morset, the head of the fucking Senate, the main guy there. I said to him, Senator, I said, what's the difference between a heroin addict and the state police? And he looked at me. I said, well, the heroin addict, he's addicted to heroin. He's got to have it. And these guys here, they're addicted to drug war dollars, and they got to have it. And boom, they stormed out of that. They know they had lost, and I might as well have put a target on my face, on my back, because then after that, I couldn't. As soon as I got any, that's one of the reasons I left Oregon. I'm trying. I just want to start over again. You get political, you get some darts sent at you. But then let me tell you, when I told you when I went up against GW Pharmaceuticals in Oregon?
No, you didn't tell me about that. Tell us.
You have that company in Oregon that make a meadowweed, Dutch pharmaceutical medicine that you can buy in pharmacies. They sell it in Germany.
Okay.
I forget the name of the company. It's a well-known company. I'm sure that you know it. They sent their team. They came to Oregon to convince the Senate that because the Senate was having a lot of problems. Everybody was growing fucking the bomb all over and selling it all over. It says we can, you know, you can legal make growing will be. You don't need to be growing your weed here. We'll supply you medical weed from Holland. So I did a PowerPoint presentation that I handed out to all the senators. So while the senators were GW was giving his presentation. I forget the company that they used to sell their medical weed here and put all the growers out of business. I did a presentation and I told them all about Dutch marketing fraud. I told them about all that shit. I told them, why would we buy weed from them? We got the best weed here. They want our weed. We don't want theirs, you know? And so when they finished their presentation, I took my paper that I had written and given to all the senators and gave it to the representatives of Dutch marketing fraud. I said, look, just to be fair, I said, this is what I've handed out to all the senators. Now, this is after I had done that major win against the state police in court at the Capitol. So when I did that, and everybody was reading my stuff while these guys were giving their presentation. So as I was walking out of the Senate building, they have a little room there where all the scientists from GW and all that shit were there, and they were passing around my PowerPoint presentation that I had given to all the senators, and they were just shaking their heads, saying, "We're not getting this. We're not getting this. We're not getting this." So they really, and when I went there, when I handed the representative of Dutch marketing fraud my paper, and I told them who I was, they knew who I was and were already briefed about me. You know what I mean?
Well, so, next episodes, that's what I'd personally, I'd like to hear like your story from the very beginning, really, Joe.
Yeah, but that was those two defeats. You know, politically and you know, from the heart and for Shiva, that was a good thing. But man, it cost me some fucking headaches.
You know, no,
but not really headaches. It's just you know, I ended up getting in Oregon a DUI for having marijuana smoke in because my truck smelled like marijuana.
Smelled like marijuana.
Okay, and now you know what my lawyer said before I left Oregon. He said to me, Joe, one thing you can say something good about your case. That case will never work in any court in the state again. Oh, great. What about my record? You know, that comes out and you pay more for insurance. It's like you know what I mean? It follows you.
Yeah.
You know, and so you know, I tell you, man, but I still, even though I went through some pain and whatever, I feel good about that. You know, there are times where I feel, you know, sometimes acknowledgement is not a bad thing. Sometimes you need that just to keep going on. And so a lot of times, like I look at all the people in the oil business in Oregon that are minting money, and I haven't made a fucking dime. And if the state police would have, sometimes money's not important, sometimes it is. That you know, I mean, I just can't even tell you. And for me to like rosin, right? I wrote an article in High Times. It's called The Saga of Afghan Ted, and Afghan Ted was a friend of mine and in my hash connection, and I met him and what became my wife 50 years later, Victoria, and Ted, my hash connection, was her first husband, and so anyway. He was adopted by the Kuchi tribe, and so he spoke fluent Farsi, and he used to get hash from the Kuchis, and because the Kuchi was a tribal thing, they had their camel caravan from Afghanistan. They brought goods all the way down to to India, to the Jodhpur in Maharashtra state. They had camel events there and huge bars with stuff from bazaars from all over Southeast Asia that were brought there by caravan. And so that's where he would get his hash. His hash, if you could get it, because a lot of times it never left. It was so good. They buried it in the sand and dried sewed camel bags, and they dried the resin in the hottest part of the desert and left it there until the next time they were back. And that's the hash. That was when you rolled it out, it was like translucent. So somebody who read that article, said, man, how can we, duplicate what they did in Afghanistan? And now you see rosin where they're pressed with heat and pressure. So when I see them, I say, well, I invented rosin. I love telling them that. Go to the article and go look at that.
Well, I actually first heard about rosin about 2008, and the first person to ever tell me about it was actually a Moroccan farmer, and he said, "Oh, back in the 60s, we used to get jeans, like Levi's type jeans, and we used to put the pollen, he called it, the resin, into jeans, and we used a press from a car crushing press that a mechanic had, and he used to call it. It sounded almost Irish to me the first time he said it. He said rosin, but really it was rosin. And he said we'd squeeze the powder in the jeans, and then he said the oil would come out, and what was left over, he said it had no power, so it's spent material. So and then
all they would have to do is soak those jeans in alcohol and then evaporate it.
But
see, this is rosin. It's not like it's totally different what you just said from what the Moroccans did. This is actually pressed rosin, and when it's buried under the sand, you get the heat of the sand, so it decarbonizes.
Yeah.
And then so when you get it out, it's not the same product that you put in. You can actually, when you rolled it, it's actually see-through. It's translucent, not see-through, but translucent. You can see light through it. So, I mean, people have been putting hash oil into clothes, whatever they can try to get it. We used to put it in double-sided. They used to make a Kodak film projector. Right, and they made that, and the walls were made out of plastic, and they were double walled. So all you had to do is seal one hole up and just pump the oil in, seal it up, and then when you get to Canada or wherever you're going to go, just put it in a deep freezer and cut it out, and you have one solid block of hash oil. You know what I mean? And they had a Sony cassette player that came with speakers, and for a cassette player that you had your own little stereo, and that was also made in those plastic containers, and people did that, But there's other stories about that I'll tell you that are actually pretty funny. But
where can we read that article, Joe?
What?
I tried to look it up. Where can we read the Afghan Ted story?
And I have a High Times. It's in High Times.
Okay, awesome. Because when you Google who created rosin, it says someone through IC Mag, so that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, that's just ridiculous. ICC Mag is the skunk man.
Yeah.
I see. Another thing is I did. The UN does a World Drug Report every year, right? And the skunk man is such an egotist, right? And by the way, do you know who does the World Drug Report?
No.
Robert Connolly Clark.
Oh.
And one time the skunk man couldn't have his name somewhere in it. So his name came out in the article that was a World Drug Report that the UN gives out. How about that for information?
Says it all, really, doesn't it?
I mean, how the fuck do you get to do the World Drug Report? You ain't a narc, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How the fuck did you put your name on that, man?
Well, as I say, I see parallels between these characters and some of the characters more in today's scene that you might not be aware of. So
yeah, because
they've
got younger people. They've got younger people in their steed. But they've
got their replacements.
No, they've got new younger guys doing the legwork. Like they have got like they have people in Amsterdam that just sit there on the computer refuting stuff and giving people headaches.
Yeah.
You know, the Dutch way. The Dutch way has killed growing.
Well, you know what's funny is, I mean, you mentioned that I'm from the younger generation, which is true, but even I have had to deal. I've even had to deal with this harassment on the internet with people just coming out of the woodwork, you know, coming at me about because I'm growing old genetics and basically saying, you know, I want nothing to do with the modern stuff. And then, you know, it's just like you start growing blue sky stuff. They know it's from Old Timer One. So they attack you relentlessly. And, you know, it's also crazy because when I first got involved with the growing scene online, I made tons of friends. But then once they seen I was growing a certain type of genetics, they all turned their backs on me and tried to shit on me constantly. So, you know, what we've done here is we've made our own community because we can't even talk about the truth inside their charade of a community, you know?
There's been a campaign of suppression against me bringing back the old skunk genetics, without doubt.
Imagine you imagine the problems that you've gotten. That, you know, think of what I've gotten over the past like 20 since
sure. I'm just going parallel, you know.
2000 I'm just saying. I mean, so prepare yourself. I mean, prepare yourself because you know they get down and dirty. They get totally down and dirty. They have no qualm. That when the Dutch when they lost the Amsterdam scene, it's like basically it's legal in like mostly America. Nobody,
you know, on Instagram,
they're trying to sell their Dutch shit. Still, it's crazy.
On Instagram, Joe, in the last 2 years, I've had 25 plus accounts where all the time my accounts are getting snitched up and deleted. There was a period where somebody was certainly paying a professional hacker because literally within a minute of me making a new account, it would get disabled. And it used to be they would just like report about 10 posts and then your account would get closed.
My Instagram account, I used to be all my genetics and all my pictures. Now there's all kinds of interjections in it, and you got to really hunt for my pictures and my menus and stuff.
Yeah, well, they've deleted 25 of mine, but it's been in an effort because they know the genetics that I've got from Old Timer One, they're far superior to anything that's out there right now. And at first, they were just like, oh, bullshit, you haven't got skunk. And then I was selling the seeds and I was getting constant confirmations. Yeah, this guy's got skunk. And then they'd say, oh, it's only people no one's ever heard of said you've got skunk. Everybody. And then all the establishments.
Some real skunk. I'll send you some real Durban, man.
I'll send you some seeds for sure, Joe, for sure.
I missed that. That was that was like an indica sativa hybrid from Afghanistan. In Afghanistan, you find two different kinds of plants. Same thing in Pakistan. What they did is they hit a sativa with an Afghani just to make a bigger plant because the Afghani indica is basically bush-like. It's not very big, not a big producer. And back in the day, you could get Pakistani hash that was up high, and then you got Pakistani hash that just put you to sleep.
Yeah.
And that there was an indica sativa, you know, they were different. So in Afghanistan, you have these plants, huge plants, and with fat leaves, but not the really fat leaf, but fatter leaves, right? But yeah. They're huge, and they're for making a lot of hash.
You know I've heard at the moment the Taliban are suppressing or wiping out a lot of the farms out there. I don't know if it's definitely true, if that's just propaganda against the Taliban, but
no, the Taliban, when they were in power, they stopped that opium production.
I've heard they're doing the same thing to the cannabis farmers as well. But
Afghanistan's always been Taliban. It's always been like Sharia. It's always been that way, man. I wasn't any different. Yeah, Kabul was a little bit moderner, but once you got into the country, you had to play. When you were in Rome, do as the Romans do.
I'd love to go there and visit there and see all their plants and try all the hash, because the hash must be amazing. I've only actually had, being in the UK, a relatively small amount of genuine Afghan, and obviously it probably wasn't anywhere near the highest quality that's available.
Oh, yeah.
But it was beautiful. I loved it. And I've had very high quality Moroccan, the best that can be produced out there. But I still prefer the Afghan that I've tried, really. I've only had limited Nepalese
the place to go would be like Dada or Bada over by the Landikodal, on the border of Afghanistan and Pakistan. They have two places there, Dada, Bada, and those are the gun-making places and the hash-making places and the opium collecting places. And there you can get some hand-pressed, from whatever. It's all available there. But yeah, it'd be nice to go back to Afghanistan. You know what I mean? But it's all confused. Afghanistan is a really, really rich country. It's just that the people are poor. It's one of those. It's like Laos. Laos is a super rich country, but I tell people, man, Laos is so fertile that if you stuck your finger in the ground, the mango would grow out of your ear. And I said, and then all the people there are poor, but all their houses are made out of solid teak, solid ironwood, solid ebony. Like they did in Chiang Mai, they sold all their stilt houses that were made out of teak and ebony and all that shit, and they made antique furniture from it, and they built modern day concrete houses with air conditioning. If you want to see those houses, you go up to I forget the place. I'll think of it in a minute. But there's a village up there. People still live in those kind of type of houses that are on stilts, built in.
Yeah, they're really high up too, aren't they? Really
high up.
Yeah,
high up. The place where I was last growing in Laos, it was Namgun. It was Namgun. And they had some real guttural language, Laos. Laos is Namgun. They had flooded. They had created like a man-made lake where once was a forest, and they were actually cutting the trees, the ebony trees and stuff, from underwater and floating them back up. So there's so much wood and teak there, and all these kinds of exotic woods. In Laos, I went to I had a bar made out of two colors of solid teak, and I bought the logs, and then I had them cut where when I took them off the log, they were right as they were taken off the log and then made into planks. But then I put the planks together; they were still like they had come off the log, and then I had them dried, and I had made this bar. I had made a bar out of it. Really, I'm going back to Laos just to see if that's still there. The Japanese would come to Laos, and they would go to they'd buy the Japanese were the best buyers of that type of quality wood, and they paid the higher price no matter what. So it was basically Japanese buyers that came there, and no one would pay the price that the Japanese pay. And they cut like a window into the logs and look at it. They know how to judge it and stuff. And I saw how they did it, man. And I had a guy cut it just exactly as it came off the log, So when you look at the bar, there's all different kinds of eyes and faces and stuff on it. It was nicely done. I'm sure it's still there. I'm curious to see if it's still there, But yeah, Laos was a trip. You could still buy weed in the market there. You just have to ask for it, So it was 100. It was 150 kip for 100 grams, which is like $1 or something. I mean, it was really cheap. And they sold red weed, gold weed, and they sold they had California green. They didn't have Lao weed. They had like California. because in the 80s, and when they made it illegal in Thailand, 1980, all the farmers went over to foreign farmers went over to Laos, and they brought all their seeds from the U.S. They brought Mexican seeds, Colombian seeds, Californian seeds. That's where you get that chocolate Thai. That chocolate Thai, that came from that seed run that Brian Daniels, a big Thai smuggler. They wrote a book about him. Billionaire pot smuggler. When they caught him up to him in Oregon, he had the Oregon beaver with 72 tons. That was the last big Thai bust. And he went and did 30 years. And he just got out recently, but he did nearly 30 years. So when you go to Laos and you go to Vientiane, they show you weed. They're showing you weed that came from Mexican seeds.
Well, it's interesting because I've definitely smoked cannabis originating from Thailand that had very distinct chocolate flavor. So that originally came over from Mexico then?
Yes. Yes. Oh. There's a book by the wife of Jerry Garcia. What's her name? It's called The Primo Plant. And she was growing in the 60s and 70s and stuff in Southern California, in Northern California. And that's one of the best grow books that are really out there, The Primo Plant by Mountain Girl.
Where can people find your book to buy now, Joe?
Amazon.
Amazon, cool. And it's 15-ounce pound and...
Big Pharma's Plant the Patent Pot and the King of the Paw, Life Before the Drug Wars.
Yeah.
There's a thing on Vimeo, the King of the Paw. There's a video. I woke up one day, this is going back about 10 years, and there's a video about my life in Nepal. And so one of the deals that I didn't do, but they said, they made it more dramatic, like I had done it, but I hadn't done it. But it's called the Black Prince of Nepal. The Black Prince of Nepal. You can probably see it on. I'll send it to you on. I'll email it to you. You know, and so you can that's some crazy stuff. I had nothing to do with that. I called up. I said, "Man, who are you doing this shit?" He said, "Oh man, I just did it. I was graduating from film school, and you know, I wanted a story." So, you know, I did your story, you know, it was like a 4-minute thing, but, you know, it did have my name and all this other stuff in there. The Black Prince of the Paw. And then you'll find it. If not, I'll send it to you. So, yeah, you know, it's really impossible. I've tried to reach out with people. I'm so glad that we are all connected because we can and we know we're telling each other the truth, so we can match our things and put it all together. You know what I mean? I mean, when I tell you that Ben Dockers is the face of marketing, of Dutch marketing fraud, he is the face. He's the biggest guy. He works for everybody there, you know, and they have people there working there behind the computers just to attack you.
Well, it was fairly obvious to me that, based on my own personal experiences of many of the people around today and in modern times, plus a lot of the history I'd read about Sam, and I'd also, in the course of researching on Sam, you know, probably even 10 years ago back, I was aware of you, Joe. Obviously, the first time we've met and spoken now, but I knew your name back then because it was coming up in information that I was finding about him, you know?
Yeah.
So it was... Yeah, it's just obvious to me that a lot of the characters involved in the industry, in the scene, who are put out there as front people to influence the way certain things are going within the scene and to promote certain things, you know, there's a nefarious agenda behind it.
Oh, they're going to re-legalize. They're going to legalize it federally here, and then the first thing that they're going to do that you're going to see. Is that they're going to regulate the amount of THC in the cigarettes.
Yeah, I've heard they've got that they've talked in the UK, or we're not going to legalize, until we've got a strain that is like no more than 12% THC. It's got to be at least 5% CBD and all this bullshit, you know.
You know what? Skunk
Well,
Man.
it ties in with that psychosis issue we're talking about. They were saying, oh, you've got to have CBD and everything now to balance out the psychotic effects of THC, you know?
Yeah, they're going to play on that. That gave them the ammunition.
Yeah.
That's and that was somebody who was a scientist, because you and I couldn't do it. It's to separate the genome that makes you paranoid, but multiply it by 10 times. Just inbreed it, inbreed it, inbreed it, inbreed it, inbreed it, inbreed it, and then breed it to a skunk.
Yeah.
And that's what they did, and it was so obvious to me, because I've been, I've been threatened. You haven't gone there yet, but I've been threatened. And so, it's good that we talk, because, I'm getting really old myself. I'm sorry to hear about the old timer passing away, and that he was older than me. We had another old timer. I have his books there. He was Old Ed from Oregon. He was from Caves Junction, and he taught the people at Positronics. Is it?
Yeah.
That how to grow the sensimilla technique, and I have all the books where you could get from Amsterdam. Hold on one second. I'll get one.
Well, I just wanted people to be able to see that, not to take everybody at face value. That Kevin Jodrey is absolutely hero worshipped. People, they literally worship the guy, and he is without a doubt a fraud and a liar at the very least. And he has deliberately suppressed and hidden marginetics from the community.
Yeah, I have to find it, but yeah, I have the information, and I have it on my website, on my Facebook page too, about Old Ed, and he taught the sensimilla technique to Positronics, and then he was the one that first, he would be at every cup, and he was promoting vaporization. He had a big vapor pipe. You could get a hit from his vapor pipe at the cups, but he's dead now. But he was much older than me, and he was alive and getting high in the 1930s or something. You know what I mean?
Did you ever meet Noel Van Schaik, Joe? Joe?
Met him, yeah.
You did meet him?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think of him? I met him, and I hope you can't burst my bubble about him. I think he's a good guy, no?
Who's Noel Van Schaik? Give me the name.
Noel Van Schaik, Nol.
Well, what did he do?
I think he opened up Mellow Yellow, the first coffee shop in 1974, perhaps it was.
Yeah, Noel Van Schaik is a good guy, but you know what? Everybody in Holland was corrupted by Ben.
Yeah,
and so like I know who, but he had some great stuff. He was a good guy. He had a couple of dispensaries, not just in Amsterdam, but right outside of it. Harlem, is it?
Yeah.
He had two shops in Harlem or something. And so, Nova, now I know who you're talking about. Yeah, he was a good guy. But
yeah, I really liked him. He's also passed, which is a shame. Yeah, I met him a few times. I really liked him.
Yeah, now I know who you're talking about. He had the good shit.
Yeah.
If you wanted to get high, he had the good shit. And so yeah, he was not part of Dutch marketing fraud.
Yeah.
He was one of the last real people. There's another guy, the guy who owns Positronics. His name is I can't think of his name, but
is it Werner?
Werner, yeah.
Yeah.
Werner was the one that brought the Old Ed from Oregon here to Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Werner Van. I know Werner. We're on a friendly basis and stuff, and we're talking and stuff. But he it's either you're in or you're out, and he joined.
Yeah.
But Noel Van Schaik, I don't think he ever did. I don't think he was ever part of Dutch marketing fraud.
No.
He
was just a cool guy. He was also responsible for starting the coffee shop.
Now I know who you're talking about,
Yeah. He came over to the UK and started showing people how to set up Dutch-style coffee shops in the UK. He was one of the first he ran little courses for it, and my friend attended one and opened up one of the first sort of, obviously it's illegal, but he opened up a coffee shop style premises in the UK.
Yeah, he had some of his coffee shops in Harlem.
Yeah.
So now I totally know. I've been in touch with him too. I'm sorry to hear that he's dead. They passed away. You know, hey, it happens.
Yeah, sure does.
You know, the thing about Howard Marks, you know, when I met Howard, I knew him and I knew of his people. I mean, I was married to Victoria and stuff. But you know, if you've ever really been fighting the drug war on the level that I did, you know, I mean, I've been in jail in Nepal, been in jail in Pakistan, been in jail in Laos. You know,
this is what we got to hear about next episode. I can't wait.
You know, they wanted me on America.